Welcome to series of UGC lectures. Today our topic of discussion is leaf origin and development. Leaf is an above ground plant organ specialized for the process of photosynthesis. Not all plants have true leaves. Non-vascular plants such as bryophytes, although have flattened leaf-like structures that are rich in chlorophyll, these are not considered true leaves by all botanists since they lack vascular tissue. Vascularized leaves first formed following the Devonian period, that's some 400 to 450 million years ago, when carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere decreased significantly. This occurred independently in two separate lineages of vascular plants, that's the microphylla and the megaphylls. A microphyll is a lateral outgrowth of stem as seen in plants such as Lycopodium, Selaginella. A megaphyll is regarded as having been derived from a branch that became limited in growth and assumed a leaf-like form, for example in ferns and seed plants. Now, morphology of the leaf. Morphologically, the leaf is the most variable plant organ in the spermatophytes. A structurally complete leaf, that's a foliage leaf, consists of that's lamina or leaf blade where most of the green tissue is located. Second, a petiole, also called a leaf stalk, which supports the blade on the axis and provides the route for transfer of water and sugars to and fro from the leaf. And third, leaf base. Not every plant species produce leaves with all these structural components. In many angiosperms, leaves are sessile and consist entirely of lamina. In certain species, small paired lobes called stipules develop at the base of leaf. The stipules may be adhered to the leaf base or are present as free appendages. And in others, stipules are not obvious or are soon lost by abscission or are absent altogether. Leaves are further classified into simple and compound leaves depending on whether the stalk bears one or more leaflets. In later case, the common stalk is called rachis. If the leaflets arise from the sides of the rachis, the leaf is called a pinnately compound leaf. And if all leaflets arise from one point as rays, then it is called a palmately compound leaf. Leaves are also classified as parallel veined when the main vascular bundles traverse the leaf without anastomosis, and net veined when the main branches of the vascular system form a network. Now, anatomy of leaf. Histologically, a leaf is made up of a collection of tissues in a regular organization. The major tissue systems present are the epidermis that covers the upper and lower surfaces, the mesophyll inside the leaf that is rich in chloroplast, also called chlorenchyma, and the vascular tissue, that is the arrangement of veins. These three tissue systems typically form a regular organization at the cellular scale. Now, epidermis. The epidermis is the outer layer of the cells covering the leaf. It forms the boundary separating the plant inner cells from the external world. It varies in number of layers, shape and structure among different plants. The epidermal walls may be thin in plants requiring moderately moist or mesophytic habitats, and in water plants, that's hydrophytes. In xerophytes, the epidermis may have thick lignified walls. The epidermis tissue includes several differentiated cell types like epidermal cells, various epidermal hair cells, that's trichomes, cells in the stomata complex, that's Gott cells of the stomata, commonly accompanied by 2 or 4 subsidiary cells, and buliform cells, as in various monocots. Stomata are commonly present on the lower surface of the leaf, but in many cases it may be present either on the upper or on the lower or both the surfaces. Leaves are commonly encountered with multiple epidermis. The epidermis of foliage leaves are compactly packed together except where they are modified for a particular function, as are guard cells and hydatodes. The continuity of epidermis is one of the features that contribute towards its effectiveness in protecting the leaf tissue from excessive loss of water and in offering mechanical support. Now, mesophyll, also called middle leaf in Greek. The mesophyll tissue forms the bulk of most of the leaves, and the chloroplasts in its cells are the principal sites of photosynthesis. The mesophyll is sandwiched between the epidermal layers. The cells of the mesophyll show great variation in shape and arrangement, but in plants, especially in dicots, they are grouped in two classes, the palisade mesophyll and the spongy mesophyll. The palisade mesophyll consists of parenchymatous cells that are elongated to prismatic in shape, but may range from nearly isodiametric to several times wide, with their long axes at right angles to the leaf surface. The spongy mesophyll is made up of irregularly shaped cells loosely arranged with much intercellular space. While both mesophyll types contain chloroplasts, the palisade has more than does the spongy mesophyll. When the palisade parenchyma occurs on one side of the leaf plate and spongy tissue on the other, the leaf is called dorsiventral or bifacial, that is having distinct dorsal and ventral sides. When the palisade parenchyma occurs on both sides of the leaf is called isolateral or isobilateral, that is having equal sides. Now, vascular tissue. Leaves receive their vascular supply from the vascular slender of the stem on which they are borne. Each leaf receives 1, 2, 3 or many vascular traces which may continue unbranched throughout the entire length of the leaf or may be branched and anastomose. Vascular bundles of leaves are called veins, and these veins by further ramifications form a network known as venation. The characteristic features of leaf venation found in advanced dicots is a prominent midvein, several distinct vein size orders with smaller veins diverging from a larger, and a closely reticulum formed by several veins with the smallest veins forming so-called freely ending veinlets. Leaf venation patterns in monocot species are usually characterized as parallel. However, in most monocots, veins typically diverge at the base of the lamina and converge and fuse towards the apex, so that the term striate is more appropriate. However, in some monocotyledonous leaves, for example, a few genera of Orchidaceae, the venation is reticulate. Similarly, in some dicotyledonous leaves such as Plantago, parallel leaves are present. Veins are made up of xylem and phloem. The xylem typically lies on the adaxial side of the vascular bundle and the phloem typically lies on the abaxial side. Now we will study origin of leaves. Leaves are produced repeatedly from the shoot apical meristem of the plants. Shoot apical meristem of angiosperms was extensively studied by Henstein in 1870. According to his theory, the histogen theory, the main body of the plant arises not from superficial cells but from a mass of meristem of considerable depth. And this mass consists of three parts, the histogens, which may be differentiated by their origin and course of development. The histogens were: number 1, the dermatogene, a unistrate external layer; second, the peribelm, which gives rise to cortex; third, the pleuron, a central core which fills and constitutes the entire mass of axis. The viewpoint and the terminology of the histogen theory have long dominated anatomical interpretations of tissues, regions and even organs in vascular plants. But the distinction of these histogens in an apex cannot be made in some plants, and in others the regions have no morphological significance. Another theory that explains the structure of shoot apical meristem of angiosperms is the tunica and carpus theory given by Schmidt 1924. According to this theory, different rates and methods of growth in the apex set apart two regions of unlike structure and appearance in the apical meristem, the tunica and the corpus. The tunica consists of one or more peripheral layers of the cells, and the corpus a mass of cells overarched by the tunica. The layers of the tunica show anticlinal divisions, that is, they are undergoing surface growth. They form the protoderm. the protoderm becomes the epidermis. The carpus cells divide in various planes and the whole mass grows in volume by producing the ground meristem and procambium. Each layer of the tunica arises from a small group of separate initials, and the carpus has its own initials located beneath those of the carpus. These two zones of apices, the tunica and carpus, variously participate in the formation of leaf primordium. The tunica carpus concept was developed with reference to the angiosperms. It proved to be largely unsuitable for the characterizations of apical meristem of gymnosperms. Shoot apices of only a few gymnosperms have an independently propagating layer that could be interpreted as tunica. In others, the outermost layer divides periclinially and thus is ontogenetically related to the subjacent tissues. The leaf originates as a leaf primordium at the shoot apical meristem. These primordia are attached to the stem at zones of little elongation zone known as nodes. Although the leaf primordium is cylindrical at first, just as stem and root, it later develops marginal growth to produce a flattened organ. Intercalary growth of the cells in this tiny primordium then expands the blade to full size. The tissues of the evolving blade develops faster on the lower than on the upper, with the result that the primordium bends inwards towards the shoot apex to protect this tender meristematic tissue from herbivory and desiccation. Cells divide and elongate in the primordium, differentiating downwards from the tip, and the intercellular spaces, characteristics of the mature leaf, soon appear among the young blade tissues. Cell division ceases when the leaf is less than full size, and subsequent enlargement consists of elongation and expansion of cells and intercellular spaces. Now we will study development of leaf. The development of leaf can be divided into following stages. First, initiation, second, early differentiation, third, development of leaf axis, fourth, development of lamina, and fifth, development of veins. Now, initiation. The initiation of leaf commences with the periclinal divisions in a small group of cells on the sides of the apex, the tunica and carpus. However, the number of the cell layers that begin to divide thus and their position on the apex varies considerably in different plants. In some monocots, that is gramineae, some of which have one layer of tunica, others two, it was found that leaf initiation starts with periclinal divisions in the cells of the surface layer of the apex and in the cells of the layer immediately below it, that is the first two layers of the apex, regardless of the number of tunica layers. This gives rise to some or most of the internal tissues of the leaf, in addition to the epidermis. In case of dicotyledons, the first periclinal division initiating the leaf primordium occurs frequently in the subsurface layer and are followed by similar divisions in the third layer and by the anticlinal divisions in the surface layer. In Sucrophularia nodosa, the apical meristem has a single tunica layer and the first division to form a leaf occurs in the corpus. Similarly, in Vinca minor, with a three-layer tunica, the leaf is initiated in the innermost layer of tunica. In the development of apices of such plants, therefore, the surface layer does not take part in the initiation of inner tissues of the leaf. The surface layer gives rise to the protoderm of the young leaf. Gymnosperms also show the same amount of variation in the initiation of the leaf primordia as there is in the angiosperms. In some cases, for example, in Taxodium distichum, the initiation of the leaf primordium originates with the periclinal divisions in the cell layers immediately below the surface layer of the apex, while in most of the coniferales and Zamia, the periclinal divisions take place in the surface layer of the apex as well as in the layer below it. In the vascular cryptogams, the leaves arise from either a single superficial cell or groups of such cells, one of which enlarges and becomes the conspicuous apical cell of the primordium. Now, early differentiation. As a result of continued cell divisions, the leaf primordium protrudes from the shoot apex in the form of a small papilla or crescent which is called leaf buttress. through a change in the direction of growth. An erect peg-like protuberance, often somewhat flattened on the adaxial side, arises on the buttress. This protuberance is the axis of the young leaf. It may be regarded as consisting of the mid-rupetial part of the primordium, bearing the meristematic precursors of the future lamina. The meristematic activity of the leaf apex is at first concentrated at the apex, later it occurs throughout. That's apical growth is followed by intercalary growth. The leaf axis arising from the leaf buttress maintains procambial continuity with the leaf buttress and the internode below it. The leaf axis also increases in thickness through the activity of a strip of cells beneath the adaxial protoderm, the adaxial meristems. Now, development of leaf axis. In dicotyledons and gymnosperms, the development of the leaf axis precedes that of the lamina or of the leaflets. As a result of the rapid development, the primordium becomes shaped like a slowly tapering cone, the adaxial side of which is flattened. The tip of the cone functions for a while as an apical meristem, but in most spermatophytes, it ceases its meristematic activity and attains maturation relatively soon. The body of the cone-like meristematic structure becomes the midrib of the leaf. If the leaf is stupulate, stupular meristems arise early as a swelling at the base of the structure. Then later reach next taper except at the base. These are marginal meristems that form the leaf blade. In pinnately compound leaves, the first formed apical meristem lays down the central axis or rachis of the leaf, and the lateral leaflets originate from primordial, which arise laterally on the structure and function as terminal meristems in forming the axis of each leaflets. Upon these leaflet axes, marginal meristem forms the blades of the leaflets as in simple leaf. In certain plants from that early stage of the development, when the primordium is still less than 1 mm long, all further increase in the length is due to division and elongation of the cells distant from the tip of the primordium. That is the intercalary meristem. In the leaves of ferns and in pinnately leaves of a few angiosperms, however, the apical growth continues for a long time together, with the addition of intercalary growth in acropetal direction. The increase in length of axis is usually accompanied by the obvious increase in the width. Now, development of lamina. During the early elongation and thickening of the axis of the young leaf, the cells of the adaxial margins continue to divide very frequently than the inner cells of the ground meristem. In the simple leaves, two wing-like strips usually develop on the margins as a result of the fast growth of these cells. These are marginal meristems that build the leaf blade. In petiolated leaves, the marginal growth is depressed in the basal portion of the leaf axis, which then develops into petiole. In a cross section, both sides of the developing lamina can be seen to consist of protoderm enclosing a few layers of the ground tissue. The new cells that are added to differentiated layers of the lamina originate from rows of marginal initials and submarginal initials. The marginal meristem is composed of a file of superficial initials, the marginal initials, and a file of subsurface initials, the submarginal initials, located below the marginal initials. The development of leaf blade follows a more or less definite pattern, which varies only in minor details. The abaxial and adaxial epidermis is formed from the superficial initials of the marginal meristem by anticlinal divisions. In certain monocots and in the bud scales of rhododendron species, periclinal divisions also occur, resulting in the addition of new cells to the nearby ground meristem. In some plants like Daphne odora and Eubrachyon ambiguum, the whole lamina is produced by the marginal initials only. Subepidermal cells on both sides of the leaf are formed by the anticlinal divisions of the submarginal initials. These subepidermal layers remain fairly distinct in the early stages of development, keeping pace with leaf expansion by continuing anticlinal divisions. In later development, the submarginal initials undergo divisions in various planes and give rise to the inner layers of the young lamina. The activity of the submarginal initials is not uniform always, but shows different patterns of the lamina. The adaxial layer gives rise to upper layer of the palisade parenchyma, and the abaxial layer produces the lower layer of the spongy parenchyma, and even some of the adjacent more deep-seated layers of the mesophyll by periclinal divisions. The central tissues of the mesophyll are usually formed by periclinal divisions of some marginal initials. In the inner daughter cells formed in this way, the divisions in all planes give rise to central mesophyll consisting of the inner part of the spongy parenchyma and vascular bundles, and sometimes to inner layers of the palisade tissues. Periclinal divisions in the central mesophyll area takes place near rapidly marginal meristem, so that close to this meristem the leaf is quickly built up to its maximum number of layers in thickness. The marginal growth apparently continues longer than does the apical growth, but it ceases relatively earlier. After the cessation of the marginal growth, further growth of lamina is brought out by cell division of various layers of the lamina. These divisions are mostly anticlinal, and thus a plate meristem is formed. A plate meristem is one in which the plane of cell division in each layers are perpendicular to surface of the organ. Now, development of vascular system. The development of vascular system or veins of a leaf is an integral part of leaf growth. The primary vascular tissue of leaf blade and petiole form a system continuous with the leaf trace with which they are joined. All parts of this system differentiate from procambium through which they are joined, but the time of maturity differs in the different parts of the leaf. The procambium of the mid vein in a dicotyledon is differentiated in the early leaf axis, that is in the early stages of lamina development. This is an acropetal process in the sense that it is progressed in the upward direction as the primordium elongates above the buttress. As the lamina is formed, procambium differentiates in its middle layers, giving rise to the largest lateral veins, then to successively smaller veins of various orders until a reticulate venation is formed. The first vascular tissue of the leaf to mature is a part of the leaf trace near the junction of leaf and stem. The venation pattern of advanced dicots develops in three distinct phases during leaf morphogenesis and growth. First, the mid-vein provascular strand extends acropitally from the stem into the leaf primordium. Second, the secondary vein provascular strands extend from the mid-vein towards the margin as the leaf lamina is formed. Finally, the reticulum of tertiary and higher order veins, including freely ending veinlets, is established during the intercalary expansion. These phases overlap to a greater or lesser degree depending on the duration of leaf growth and the number of discrete orders of venation. Formation of minor veins usually proceeds in a basipital direction, so that the minor vein network is present in the apical region of the leaf, while secondary veins are still forming near the leaf base. The regular parallel venation of the leaves of most monocots also arise in a hierarchical sequence. First, the mid-vein provascular strand extends acropitally from its initiation at the disc of leaf insertion, which in most species occurs without initial attachment to the stem vasculature. Second, the major lateral provascular strands initiated at the disc of insertion extend acropitally. Third, intermediate provascular strands initiated within the leaf primordium above the disc of insertion extend basipitally. And fourth, small longitudinal and transverse vein provascular strands from beginning near the tip and progresses in a basipital direction to establish an interconnecting vascular network within the leaf blade. Following the initial acropital pattern of development, mid-vein and large lateral vein provascular strands extend basipitally to connect with the stem vasculature. Only some of the basipitally developing intermediate veins extend through the leaf sheath to connect stem vascular bundles. The vascular elements mature in the leaf before its procambial system is completely differentiated. The phloem is first to mature, then xylem. Protophloem develops in acropital manner with the earlier form phloem till the basipital differentiating procambium is initiated. The protoxylem follows the protophloem and differentiates in the same direction. In monocotyledons leaves, there is commonly double wave of differentiation of xylem, first in acropital and then in basipital direction. Thank you, and this ends our topic, and hope you might have understood the topic well.